Well, I've been trying to hunt down a ghost in my Star Trek The Next Generation pinball machine, and I believe it has something to do with the diverters underneath the playfield here. So I raised the playfield up and got to doing some testing, and found out that this coil right here, that if you push it down by hand, it doesn't want to return. It's real stiff. Now I don't know if the stiffness is in the diverter shaft or whether it's the coil sleeve and in the coil. So we're going to go ahead and take the bolts out and drop the coil off. And I got new sleeves. I can put a new sleeve in here, and we'll find out if the problem is indeed the sleeve and the plunger, or if it's in this diverter shaft. Like the one underneath it here, you can see this is real free, and in test mode it engages and works fine. This one here, it engages and pulls in, but as you can see, it's real slow about coming back. Sometimes during gameplay, I guess from the vibration, it will come back up and sort of reset itself, and the game seems like it plays fine. But if it ever gets in a situation where the ball comes down here and needs to be diverted, and this is in the wrong position, then that's when the game runs into a problem. And as you can see, all these other ones I checked, and they all seem to be good and free. Even though I have new coil sleeves to put in them, they seem real free and they're working fine, so I don't see no need in messing with them right now. If I was going to shop the game out and to sell it, I might go through every one of them, but since it's for home use and it's my machine, personal machine, I'm just going to do the maintenance that needs to be done on it and not worry about going through everything right now. So let's go ahead and take that coil off and find out what the problem is. Alright, so let's go ahead and take this coil off. I got my nut driver here, and we're just going to take these nylon lock nuts off. I've never had one of these off of this machine before, so this will be the first time here. We'll just take their harness piece off there, and it appears there's not enough room for it to come out, so we're going to have to either loosen up or even take the top ones off. And it appears they're a smaller size. We'll start by just loosening the nuts up, see if that'll give us enough play to take this off, which it does. Alright, so now there's our coil sleeve, so we'll just let this hang for right now. It would appear that the problem is not the coil sleeve. Coil sleeve is nice and free. The problem is the shaft right here. So possibly this was put together, maybe somebody put some grease in there and the grease has got hard. I don't know if you're supposed to put grease in it. I usually don't put grease in any moving parts on a pinball machine because the grease will eventually harden up and clog up things and stop things from working, and this appears to be what's happened here. So this may turn out to be more of a job than I wanted to, because now I believe I can take this bracket off right here but this bracket is also bolted on to the rest of this. So no, this is not going to be a totally easy job, so we're going to have to figure out how we want to attack this. We can go ahead and take the set screws out of here, take this arm off the diverter, and I don't know if it has any flat spots on that shaft, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a marker, and I'm going to mark on the shaft itself and right on the edge where the set screws line up, so I'll know what position to put them back in, and we'll go from there. Okay, well, I got the pivot arm off of the diverter, and it's still real stiff, so I'm going to have to take it out, clean the shaft, and clean the bushings up. In order to do that, I'm going to have to take this whole metal bracket off that holds the other diverter and the other coil on too. So I'm going to have to take the screws where that screws down to the playfield. I got two on this side, two over on this side, two up on the top side, and I believe that's it. Then I'll be able to take this bracket off of the subway tunnels, and then I ought to have access to take that diverter shaft out. Okay, I've got all the screws out of the bracket and the ones that the studs that come through from the plastic subway that hold the bracket, but the diverter is stuck in this other in the plastic subway that I didn't want to take loose, so I had to push the shaft through. So now I can take this off, and I'll be able to hopefully, yeah, get the diverter out of here. So yeah, it looks like somebody has put some type of grease on there, and it's become hard and real sticky. So I'm gonna have to clean all that stuff off, and then I'll do a little research and find out whether or not it's supposed to have any type of grease at all, and then we'll reassemble it. Alright, well, we've now cleaned the hard grease off of the diverter shaft, and as you can see now it's nice and free. Before it was real stiff and wouldn't hardly move at all. So now that we got it all freed up, we can start assembling it back together. Alright, well, we're ready to put the diverter back together, and I did a little checking, and I found out that the diverter shaft is really anything on a pinball machine shouldn't have any grease on it. All the grease does is attract the black dust and dirt that forms in the pinball machine, and it'll stick to the grease, and it'll cause it to gum up. So it's best to go ahead and just put it back together dry, and since we have this nice and free, it should be fine. So what we have to do now is install it just like we took it apart. First, we're going to have to put the diverter lever back into the subway. And then we have to feed the shaft through it. And now we can line up the subway studs. It has studs that comes through that holds this bracket to the subway. So now we've got the studs lined up. We go ahead and put these nuts on. And you get two right here, and you get one up top here. Now that'll kind of hold it in place. But now what we need to do is to put our screws back into the playfield to where this bracket is held onto the wood playfield with wood screws. So we'll do that first. That way they'll be a little easier to line up before we tighten up the nylon lock nuts. So we have to put a 1/4" nut driver back on. And we'll start up top here. As easy as I thought. It's never easy trying to work on top underneath the pinball machine. Okay, the hardest part and what you need to try to do is when you're putting these screws back into the play field, you want to make sure you get them back in the, of course, the original hole. But you want to make sure you get the threads started back in the original threads that are into the wood, because if you don't, you can basically strip out the hole in the wood if you don't get them back in the exact same place. Now, I don't have a magnetic nut driver here. It'd be nice if I did. So a little trick I have is take your screw that you're going to put in, put a little piece of paper towel over the head, and then stick it in the socket, and it'll hold it in place. Which makes it easier to line back up. Now you just leave them loose till you get them all in. And when you're screwing them into wood, you can usually tell when you got them in the correct threads that you've already had in the wood, because they'll screw in a lot easier. Once you start to screw them in and they're right at first tight, what you may have to do is, what works a lot of times, and this works also when you're putting these type of screws into a piece of plastic, because you can strip the threads out of plastic also the same way. You put the tip of the screw in the hole and you turn it backwards until the edge of that screw slips into the original thread. Then you can turn it to the right, and it'll most of the time go right in place. Just something you want to do, because you don't want to have to repair that hole if you don't have to. But if you do strip out a screw hole in wood, it's not that hard to repair. All you need is some round toothpicks and a little bit of wood glue, and all you got to do is just stick the toothpicks and the glue in there, let the glue set up, cut the toothpick off flush, and then you can go ahead and put the screw in, and it'll hold it. So now that's the last screw, so I'll go ahead and tighten it down. You want to snug it, but you don't want to over tighten it either. And you can pretty much tell if you're getting a good bite into wood. And these play fields are made out of some quality wood, so it takes quite a bit to strip them out. But they are easily strippable if you don't follow the right procedures. Okay, now we got the wood screws tight. Now we need to tighten down these 3 nylon lock nuts. Wrong size socket. And I'll snug them down first. Because these are nylon lock nuts, they're more than likely not going to come loose. So you don't want to over tighten them, because the studs are in another piece of metal, I believe. I might be wrong about that, but I believe it's another piece of metal in the bottom of the ramp here. And when you tighten that down, you're tightening metal down against plastic. So if you tighten it too tight, you can smash that plastic and it might crack. So we don't want to do that. Now, next thing we need to do is to put the diverter arm back on. And this arm, as you can see, the part that hooks up to the coil plunger is on one side, and you got the big piece that goes on the shaft. You want that on the outer or the bottom side here. So what we need to do is just put this on, and what we have to do is get it down on there to where it's centered. And I believe the set screws, the shaft had a groove where the set screws go down in that should center it. So that will be part of a good thing there, because you don't have to worry about getting the height correct. It should get the correct height by the screws going in that groove. It's not a real deep groove. So it's easy to miss it. And I believe that's got it right there. Okay, now I've got it snug down with one screw, and I can see that the diverter arm is in the center of the groove there. So that's where we want it, right in the center of the ramp. So now what we need to do is put our coil back in, and I'm going to get a new sleeve. There's probably nothing wrong with that sleeve, but since I got it out, I'm going to go grab a new sleeve and put that in. Well, we've got a new coil sleeve here. So now we'll take our coil, and when you put a coil in, the end where the wires go on usually go on the end where the plunger goes in. So we put the coil sleeve in the bottom end so it sticks up through the top. Then we'll just slide it in, plunger, and then this end right here goes in the other end of the coil. So we'll put that in like that, put it on the studs, and now we'll put our nylon lock nuts on the studs, and the one on this side over here gets the plastic wire holder. Hold the wires, strain relief for the wires. We just push up on the bracket, take up any slack. And you want these snug, but they don't have to be extremely tight. Just snug enough to where they're not going to back off. The nylon lock nut will prevent the nuts from loosening up. All right. The last thing we need to do is to make sure we have the arm on the shaft in the correct position and tighten these two set screws. Now the way to do that is with the coil not energized, the spring pushes the plunger all the way up, and with the plunger all the way up, the arm should be on the inside, should be flat against the subway edge of the subway. So with it in that position, we can go ahead and tighten up these set screws. Alright, we got that one a little snug, and as you can see, it's nice and free. And that's what we were going for. Now also, we want to make sure it's in the center. The subway here, the plastic subway, has a slot in the side where the arms go in and out of. We want to make sure it's centered, which seems to be centered, so that ought to be fine. So now, make this a little easier to get to, just hold this one down. Now we can go ahead and tighten these up. And when you're tightening these, it helps to hold a little pressure on the shaft so you don't bend the shaft. Alright. So now the diverters should be working fine. Okay, now we're going to put it in test mode. And it's given us the check switch F8 for the upper left flipper, which this game doesn't have. That could just be a bad opto on the on the flipper button, but since we're not using it, it doesn't matter if it works or not. So now let's go ahead and see if we can't get the right menu. With the playfield up in the air, it's a kind of a pain. Okay, solenoid test, that's what we want. And what we want is alright, we got a running solenoid test now. So all we gotta do is shut the door to energize the coils. And our diverters seem to be working fine. Alright, so now we can put the playfield down and put the balls back in, and we'll see how it plays. Alright, we put the balls back in the game. Let's fire it up. See what we get. Alright.
Please. Welcome to Enterprise. Enterprise. The Black Enterprise. Intercept immediately. Admiral BLGI. Course line. Engage.
To continue.
Alright. Well, it appears the diverter problem has been fixed. So, all we got to do is try 4 games to make sure nothing else shows up. And then we can get to do a good playfield cleaning and replace the rubbers. And have new laser cannon kits to put on it. And later this week I'm going to be ordering the new color DMD. So we're going to get the next generation pinball sort of pimped out. So that's all for now.